When Edward Carnby boards the airplane, he is plagued by a haunting nightmare. In his dream, he recalls a vivid memory from his childhood. He remembers hiding inside a high-voltage box, gazing in terror at strange, otherworldly creatures. As the camera pans over rugged terrain, a voice-over narration explains that Edward, now an adult, is on a quest to find the remains of the Abkhani, an indigenous American tribe that vanished without a trace 10,000 years ago. The reason behind their sudden disappearance remains a mystery. As he searched, he came across a small trinket that appeared to be connected to the object of his quest. As Edward makes his way to the museum, where Aileen Sedrak, his ex-girlfriend and assistant curator, is scanning more Abkhani pieces, he suddenly finds himself under attack by a mysterious man. This man possesses supernatural abilities and attempts to steal an artifact from Edward, but he manages to fend him off in a fierce struggle. As he embarked on a sea voyage, Professor Lionel Hudgens faced a perilous situation that almost cost him his life. However, during his journey, he stumbled upon a mysterious discovery known as the Enigmas. As the ship's crew scoured the depths of the ocean floor, they stumbled upon a remarkable discovery: a coffin made entirely of gold. Once they docked, the captain of the salvage tug, who was known for his evil and greedy ways, proceeded to lock up Hudgens and his men. Despite Hudgens' pleas for them not to do so, the captain and his crew opened the gold coffin. After 5 minutes had passed, all of them had perished except for Hudgens, who was confined within a storage room on the vessel. Hudgens had collected another item from the empty gold coffin, which was said to have contained a mysterious creature. Afterward, he quietly slipped away. As the gold coffin was opened, an old friend of Edward's vanished into the darkness of the night. As the night falls, a strange phenomenon begins to unfold across the United States and Canada. People from various regions seem to be walking off in a trance-like state, as if being pulled by an invisible force. As Edward was examining the Abkhani artifact in his apartment, he suddenly heard an ear-splitting screech. In an underground military facility known as Research Agency Bureau 713, control room technicians monitor the opening of a gold coffin. They report their findings to their bureau chief, who receives evidence of the electromagnetic wave on their monitors. Edward, a seasoned paranormal investigator and a former agent of Bureau 713, believes that the matter at hand is connected to the Abkhani. Hudgens had an old friend who was also an orphan. They had both been subjected to experiments by Sister Clara without anyone's consent, as shown in a previous flashback. Edward sets out to investigate. That evening, Edward makes his way to the Natural History Museum, where he meets up with Aileen. She doesn't seem too pleased to see him, but she does show him an Abkhani artifact that she has been working on in Professor Hudgens' absence. As Edward and Aileen were exploring the museum, a sudden attack from a mysterious creature that had come from the ship caught them off guard. The creature was fast and deadly, and it killed a security guard in the process. However, the two managed to find refuge in a storage closet and waited until the Bureau 713 troopers arrived. The creature quickly fled into the darkness. As Commander Richard Burke, the leader of the Bureau 713 strike force, arrived at the location, Edward attempted to share some crucial information with him. However, Burke dismissed him, reminding him that he no longer worked for Bureau 713 and should not interfere with their investigation. The following day, Edward approached his former colleagues at Bureau 713 in an attempt to gather more information. Among them was Sam Fisher, a staff surgeon and pathologist. Edward hoped to learn more about the creature they had encountered, as well as the history of the Abkhani. As the clock ticks away, Professor Hudgens makes his way back to the museum. Upon his arrival, he heads straight to his office, where a peculiar creature is being held captive. It remains unclear whether this is the same creature that was discovered on the ship or an entirely different one. Hudgens proceeded to use a syringe to extract fluid from the captive creature. This was done in order to conduct further research on the combination of human and animal DNA. Edward proceeded with his investigation into his past by visiting his former orphanage to gather more information about Hudgens' research. Afterward, he returned to his apartment where Aileen was present. As the Bureau 713 soldiers patrolled the museum, they suddenly found themselves under attack by a group of creatures. These creatures were none other than the missing individuals who had wandered off after the gold coffin containing the creature was opened. Amidst the intense battle, a number of soldiers and the majority of the humanoid beings meet their demise. As Edward arrives on the scene, he engages in conversation with Burke once more, who sternly dismisses him yet again. During the scuffle, Edward managed to pick Burke's pocket, which contained his Bureau 713 security badge. Edward meets with Fisher in the morgue. Together, they examine one of the deceased bodies. Fisher directs Edward's attention to a peculiar, centipede-like infant creature nestled within the dorsal spine of his late comrade. As Fisher delves deeper into Edward's body, he makes a startling discovery. There is a parasite within Edward's body, but unfortunately it is deceased. It is believed that the parasite perished due to the electroshock therapy that Edward underwent during his childhood. Fisher informed him that he had the ability to remove the creature, albeit at the cost of rendering it incapacitated. The monster appeared lifeless, indicating that the situation was not urgent, as Burke and his men escort Edward out of the building. Professor Hudgens lays in wait for Fisher to return home. Upon his arrival, Fisher is taken aback to discover his wife has been killed. As Hudgens inserts the small creature into Fisher's mouth, it takes over his mind, putting him under Hudgens' control. Edward delves deeper into his research and uncovers a startling revelation about the Abkhani people. It seems that they had encountered a formidable foe, creatures that were vulnerable to light. This explained why the Abkhani always sought refuge in dark places, as it was their only defense against these deadly adversaries. Electromagnetic pulses also have the ability to interfere with electrical systems, resulting in power outages. It is said that the Abkhani artifacts, which have been discovered in various locations around the globe, possess the ability to unlock a portal to an alternate dimension. Within this realm, countless creatures lie dormant, eagerly awaiting their release so that they may wreak havoc upon humanity. As Hudgens continued his experiments with the captured creature, he decided to take a bold step. Without hesitation, he extracted some creature's blood and injected it into his veins. As the transformation takes place, he begins to resemble a semi-alien creature, granting him the ability to manipulate the monsters at will. Edward, Aileen, Burke, and his squad make their way to the orphanage where Edward grew up. The area is experiencing intense electromagnetic disturbances, adding to the tension and uncertainty of the situation. The group finds themselves under attack by numerous reptilian creatures. A fierce and lengthy battle ensues, resulting in the deaths of many of both the monsters and humans involved. Edward, Burke, and Aileen entered the surgery room underground, where the creature had been transplanted into Edward. Hudgens took Edward's piece of archaeological remains and proceeded to open the gate. As the sun began to rise, millions of creatures stirred from their slumber and made their way down a vast cave system. As they descended the walls, the group noticed that the attackers had refrained from approaching the gate for an unknown reason. This gave the three heroic individuals an opportunity to eliminate Hudgens and flee. However, they soon realized that they were too far away to activate the explosive device. As Burke returned, he proceeded to detonate everything in sight, including himself and the creatures. At dawn, Edward and Aileen emerged from the back of the orphanage and surfaced to find a deserted city. The streets were littered with abandoned cars, and there was not a soul in sight. As they walked down the street, several noises could be heard. As the camera pans out, we see the two individuals standing in the middle of a deserted road. Suddenly, they turn around abruptly, as if to face one of the creatures that lurk in the area. It's worth noting that this confrontation takes place during daylight hours. The question was raised as to whether or not monsters are vulnerable to light. The gate was not closed properly. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more videos like this. Your support keeps the reels rolling, so thanks for watching, and we'll see you at the next recap.